CONCACAF Gold Cup Group C, we've got Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Guadeloupe. And this is the group I'm probably the most excited for because I think all four teams realistically have a shot at progressing. Obviously, Panama and Jamaica are going to be decently big favorites, but I could definitely see scenarios where Guadeloupe or Guatemala manage to get through the group. I'm going to start with Guadeloupe because they're the team I'd at least expect to go through, but they very nearly did make it to the knockout stage at the last Gold Cup. They had a draw with Canada, beat Cuba, lost their last game, but they played really well, especially against Canada. And I think I was kind of surprised by how well they did last time. And looking at their squad, there are a few players playing at like somewhat of a high level. Nothing to the level of Panama or Jamaica, but still they've got some decent players. So I wouldn't be entirely shocked if Guadeloupe made it past the group. They are also on a 4-game winning streak heading into the Gold Cup. Granted, those wins came against Nicaragua and the Cayman Islands, so it's not necessarily the highest caliber of opposition, but going in with, morale high, that's not something that should be underestimated. That can have a pretty big effect. So even if they're only beating up on a few smaller countries, wins are wins. And if you're in the Gold Cup, heading into the tournament with a good feeling around the team, that can go a long way. Still would say they're probably going to get fourth, though. And that leads me on to Guatemala, who did actually manage to make it to the quarterfinals at the last Gold Cup. It's a shame they're not going to get to play any games in New York this time around with the Club World Cup happening on the East Coast, because Guatemala had some really impressive fan turnouts when they played in New York at the last Gold Cup. I imagine they kind of drew from that a bit, because having fans behind you can be quite a big thing. So I wonder if that helped them overachieve by any means, but I don't think Guatemala's got a terrible squad by any metric either. I've looked at their recent results, and it's been somewhat of a mixed bag. On the one hand, they've lost to Guyana and taken the 3-0 losses to Costa Rica and Jamaica both. But they've also managed to draw with Costa Rica and beat Honduras, so they're not an awful team, and that maybe gives them some hope going into the tournament, especially when they were quarterfinalists last time. Without that big draw of New York crowds, though, I wonder if they'll do quite as well this time round. Their squad is also largely based in Guatemala. They've got a few MLS guys, but mainly it's from Guatemala, which isn't the strongest league. It's not the worst league in CONCACAF. It's kind of similar standing to El Salvador, which I talked about in the last video, where it's all right. It's just not, cream of the crop in CONCACAF. So I feel like drawing from almost all of your players from your domestic league might not work entirely great for Guatemala, even with a few MLS guys, but we'll see. I do think that they have a shot, and they were in the quarterfinals last time, so they're not a team that will just roll over and die. That leads me on to Jamaica and Panama, though, who are definitely the favorites. I'm actually quite disappointed with Jamaica. I've become increasingly frustrated by their inability to capitalize on the generation that they have. Because I could say they've got some really big names. They've got Mikel Antonio, Damari Gray, Leon Bailey, all players who have competed at a very high level in the Premier League in England. And even with some of their less star-studded names, they've also got one of the best goalkeepers in MLS as their captain. They've got a pretty decent squad, and yet it feels like they've never quite managed to capitalize on that. They've been disappointing in World Cup qualifiers. I think they've made it to one Nations League semifinal. It's by and large been disappointing, and considering that they often come into tournaments as this kind of dark horse just based on some of the names on the team, I feel like they've just disappointed me a lot of the time. So I don't know if I have too much hope in Jamaica to do well. They'll probably get past the group, but part of the reason I think that Guatemala and Guadeloupe have a shot is because Jamaica are disappointing sometimes. Although I don't know if they're going to miss out on the group knockout stage entirely. They did just recently beat Guatemala 3-0, which will bode well considering that they're playing Guatemala in the Gold Cup. So Probably they'll have enough. I just don't know if they're going to make it past the quarterfinal stage. And then that leads me on to Panama, who I think it is not outlandish at all to say could actually win the tournament. I don't see any reason why they can't. They're probably like fourth favorite still, or maybe third considering some of the names the U.S. brought and how poorly they've been playing. Uh, so maybe they can. I mean, I know all too well that Panama are perfectly capable of frustrating opposition. They've beaten the U.S. too many times. It's like Panama are starting to terrorize me, and it's really sad to like. I'm actually scared of playing Panama now, but that's also a testament to how well Panama's been doing. And they also got a few decent players on their team. Players like Blackman, Waterman, Murillo. Like they don't quite have the same like star power that Jamaica has. They're not as flashy, but they play better as a team, I think. And again, they are capable of frustrating any team in this tournament. They have gotten pretty close as well to winning silverware in CONCACAF. They most recently were in the Nations League final as well as the Gold Cup final last time. And both games against Mexico, they weren't too far off from winning. Again, I really don't see any reason why Panama could not win the Gold Cup. It's not the likeliest thing, but I'd say they're my third favorite, and I legitimately do think they could win. So that's pretty exciting for the Panamanian team, I'm sure, and I have a feeling they're going to win this group. I'm going to say that it will be Panama first, Jamaica second, Guatemala third, Guadeloupe fourth. But as I said in the beginning of the video, I do think Guatemala and Guadeloupe have a decent shot at progressing still. So we'll see what happens there. I'm quite excited for this group. The Gold Cup starts tonight, so that's also really exciting. I've fallen behind quite a bit on the previews, but that's exciting. I can't wait for the Gold Cup. I always love CONCACAF action, so yeah, that's gonna be fun.